Okay. Looks like still people are jumping in. Well, it's 5:02 in the evening here on September the 10th, and welcome everyone to the City Council Candidates Forum, brought to you this evening by Tahoe Chamber and the Tahoe Tribune. We're honored to have 8 of our 10 council candidates with us this evening, and I'm Steve Teixeira from the Tahoe Chamber. I have a couple of my colleagues with me, Emily Abernathy and Zach Fiore, and I want to quickly go through the format for this evening's program so we all know what to anticipate. I've shared the format earlier today with the council candidates so they know what's ahead as well. So each candidate will have the opportunity to do a 2-minute opening statement as we start the program, so you get some sense of who they are, why they're running, kind of what they're about as a candidate, and why they're running for the council. And then at the end, as the forum winds down, each candidate will have a 90-second time to have a closing statement. The first round of questions after the opening statements will be led by Scott McCoubre, assisted by Mario Guerrero. They are both members of the 2020 Tahoe Chamber Council Candidates Endorsement Committee. We appreciate both of them being here representing their colleagues on CEC tonight. Those round of questions are a combination of questions that the Chamber has formulated based on our knowledge of the issues in the community, and some questions that were sent to us before this evening by people in the public. We're going to do everything we can to leave time towards the latter part of the program so that those of you who are participating on the Zoom platform will have a chance to submit questions in the, good evening, Leonard. You'll be able to submit questions in the Q&A box, and with Zach's assistance, we will work those up to Scott to ask some of the questions that you here this evening will want to know from the candidates. We're going to do our level best to make sure that everybody's got equal time to talk about their views and their candidacy. And we've asked all the candidates if they have a website or something at the end, an email that you can follow up with them to please share that with you. I'm going to be the timekeeper. I've got this high quality artwork here. 30 seconds to let you know that you've got 30 seconds left, and then stop when it's time to stop. And I think Emily will also be on the mute button at that point in time. And you know, this is always a challenge, but we're going to ask each of the candidates when they answer a question to try to limit their answer to 1 minute. And again, when you look at 2 hours and you look at the number of candidates and the questions, we're trying to make this work for everybody. And you know, we'll broadcast this in multiple locations going forward. So if anybody's not with us tonight, or if you didn't see the whole forum, there'll be opportunities to do that as we work our way towards the election. So with that as an understanding, and I will turn it over to Scott in just a minute, but let me go ahead and begin to invite the candidates to give their 2-minute opening statement. And I'm going to just start out by looking at who's on my screen from left to right and see to some extent alphabetically. So I'm going to ask Stacy Ballard to start us off.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for being here and taking this time to inform our community. My name is Stacy Ballard. I've lived in Tahoe on and off since 1997. I'm an artist, business owner, and published author. I worked at Grassroots in retail for almost 10 years. I volunteered and taught art with our local BATS program, bringing arts to school in our elementary schools. Also taught art at the Boys and Girls Club. Finally, I spent over 3 years on the South Y community plan team in an effort to help redirect community funds to develop the locals' end of town. What you might not know about me is that I've had multiple surgeries at Barton, spent months in the hospital at a time, and I've been flown out of our local airport multiple times while dying of organ failure. I have lived most of my life with chronic illness. I went through my toughest years living in Tahoe. I experienced what it felt like to have the community rally around me and offer their steadfast support. That's what got me through each day. Tahoe is now facing one of its toughest moments. We're seeing an excess of trash, traffic, and over-tourism. I have a deep love for this town, and it was there for me during my difficult times, and I am now ready and able to give back. I am running to help other locals like myself attain the quality of life we all deserve. Tahoe is an international tourist destination for a reason. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. We're a highly service-oriented kind of town, which means we need to take care of the people who are traveling here. And the best way to do that is to take care of the people who live here. My vision for Tahoe is to focus on the uniqueness of our mountains, our lake, and our people. We must care for them equally, and I believe I can help bring us to that future. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Well done. Nice timing. Let's go next to Leonard Carter. Good evening, Leonard. Thanks for being here. You want to unmute yourself so we can hear you? Can you unmute yourself? I don't see yet. Anything we can do to help Leonard, Emily?
That should do it right there. Yeah, I had some technical difficulty. I'm on my third computer to get in here.
Okay. Well, Leonard,
my name is Leonard.
Yes, please go ahead. Thank you.
My name is Leonard Carter. I grew up on the coast in the Redwoods. I went to college and studied forestry. I also worked in the forestry industry when I was quite young, and then went back and finished up with a Master's of Divinity. I pastored a church for about 10 years, or I was in the ministry for about 10 years. At that time, we moved up here. We had three daughters. Our youngest was 1 when we moved here, so I'm somewhat informed about the educational system. My wife is a teacher presently at the middle school. My wife, her job is the reason why we came here. In social work, she was a social worker in a nonprofit foster home agency. I took the same California agency and adapted it to the requirements in the state of Nevada, developed from ground zero to 65 bed spaces. I was the director of that portion in northern Nevada for about, 5 or 6 years. Then I decided that I wanted more time with my family, so I became a case manager. So I had pretty much extensive relationship and work in that field, dealing with people who are less fortunate, so to speak. After that, I decided to leave that field, and I ultimately became in a very small segment of TRPA dealing with retrofit BMPs with TRPA. And so I was certified by TRPA in order to do the engineering and ultimately make up the plans for the implementation of infiltration.
Got about 10
here
seconds.
In South Lake Tahoe.
Got about 10
seconds.
seconds.
Is that it? Okay. Well, I'm here to basically say I'm a pragmatic person, and ultimately there are issues, but I think many of them can be handled in a very pragmatic way. I don't think they're as difficult as sometimes people want to make them out to be.
Thank you, Leonard. Appreciate
With that.
that.
I'll thank you.
Let's go next to Christy Cregan.
Hi.
Hi, Christy.
I'm Christy Cregan, and I want to thank the Tahoe Chamber and the Tahoe Daily Tribune for putting on this forum under these unique circumstances. And I want to thank everyone who's listening tonight and working with us to engage in this process. I'm going to spend my 2 minutes explaining my qualifications to you for this city council position, and you'll be able to hear my stances on the issues during the question and answer portion. I've been a resident of the city of South Lake Tahoe for 23 years. My husband and I are raising our 2 daughters here. I am a partner in and actively manage 2 businesses here. I'm very invested in the community. I've held several positions of board leadership at nonprofit organizations, some school-based in our community. Nearest and dearest to my heart is my board membership at Live Violence Free, formerly the South Lake Tahoe Women's Center, where I've been on the board for 10 years and was proud to be the president for 3. I'm running for city council because I'm uniquely qualified to lead our community in the development of solutions to the problems that we're facing now, our challenges, and those that we might face in the future. First, I'm a lawyer, and my background is in research and analysis of complex material and issues. And this gives me a unique ability to analyze the complicated matters that come before a city council. Second, I was the managing director of a statewide land trust. I have significant experience as a grant writer and have dealt with large and complex budgets, as well as contracts with public and private entities. And lastly, I'm really committed to our community and connected throughout it. Nearly everywhere I go, I see someone I know. I'm connected to people and people are connected to me. And that's why I will be a great city council member. Thanks.
Thank you, Christy. Well done on the timing. Let's go next to John Friedrich.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you to the Tahoe Chamber and the Tahoe Tribune for organizing this forum tonight. And thank you to everyone who is taking time out of your evening to listen in. I'm John Friedrich. I moved to South Lake Tahoe in 2005 for love. And my wife, Kim Carr, and I have a daughter, Rosie, who's in 9th grade at South Tahoe High School. Go Vikings. And Rosie inspires me to do as much as I can to help make our community better. The new problems we're facing require new ideas and new approaches. For too long, we've been divided into camps, us versus them. But the threats of COVID-19 and catastrophic wildfires remind us that despite our differences, we're all in this together. I'm running for city council to help unite our community around solutions to our challenges. If I'm elected, I'll be asking all of you listening tonight to be active participants in creating the community that you'd like to see. After all, it's about we, not me. I see so many opportunities to find common ground and move forward together on issues like creating more walkable, thriving town centers filled with local businesses, music and art, from State Line to the Y, with stops along the way at Ski Run, Bijou, Harrison Avenue, and Sierra Boulevard, and with well-marked connections everywhere to a growing trail network. On tourism, I know we can learn from this summer and do better with a more sustainable approach that supports our hardworking local business owners and employees with fewer community impacts like traffic and trash. At the same time, we need to work on diversifying our economy. We have a growing crisis and a lack of affordable housing options for the Tahoe workforce, but there are solutions that would have wide support, like putting locals to work, building accessory dwelling units, or finding incentives for second homeowners to offer long-term rentals. We need to find new revenues, especially in this time of COVID, to pay for sufficient fire and police protection, to repair our crumbling roads, and to invest in infrastructure like broadband in order to provide affordable high-speed internet for all. We can do all these things if we put aside divisions and unite to make our community better. And you can learn more on my website, john4council.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Let's go to Bruce Grego.
Thank you, Steve. I've been a resident of South Lake Tahoe for 53 years. I grew up in the motel industry in State Line, and I understand the need of tourism and the issues that we depend on and trying to develop an economic base for our community. I'm approaching 40 years as a licensed attorney in South Lake Tahoe. My experience in the law has been basically civil, interpretation of statutes, dealing with real property issues. I've been involved. My earliest involvement in dealing in participating with the city was a commission in the late 70s. In the 80s, I was on the Planning Commission for 9 years. I have been on the council twice for 5 years. I filled a 1-year vacancy. And then in 2008, I was elected for 4 years. I continue to participate in our community. I'm a board member of the South Tahoe Chamber. I'm also on the Advisory Planning Commission for the TRPA. What I think is important here is I feel that I can contribute something to make our future better in our community. I'm concerned about the current direction of the city council, some of the decisions they've made, their failure to place the loop road on the ballot, despite how many citizens asking for that to happen.
Got about 10 seconds, Bruce.
Oh, okay. And the idea of proposing another tax on businesses and on sales taxes at this time, I don't think is well conceived. I would appreciate your support.
Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate it. Okay, we're moving on to Keith Roberts. Good evening.
Hi, thanks for this opportunity to introduce myself. I was told today that they knew every one of the candidates except for that guy in the Hawaiian shirt. So I'm Keith Roberts. I'm running for city council because I'm concerned about the growth of this city. Growing up in the beach cities of California, I saw them all grow from the quaint little communities to bustling and beyond bustling cities. And I see the same things happening here. So I don't want to, I know we're going to grow and I know we should grow, but I just want to be part of making sure it's growing in the right direction. I believe that there's always two sides of the story. We need to bring people together. We need to hear all the opinions so that we can make intelligent decisions. For example, tourists, I do believe we need the tourists. I want the tourists, but I think they need to be partners with us, that we don't damage our environment, damage our community, and damage our enjoyment of this wonderful place where we're at. So I want to be part of that. My expertise being new to politics is I've been an executive chef for over 40 years, and in working in large corporate hotels, I've dealt with large union entities. And the executive chef is always the enemy of the union employees, as you could imagine. But I've always come out on top where everybody got what they wanted, everybody left happy. So I think my ability to bring people together, hear all their opinions, bring out what's important and get the emotions out of that, I think that's how I can add to the city council and make things happen and make sure we're going in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Next, we'll go to Scott Robbins.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Very good. Hello, my name is Scott Robbins, and I'm happy for the opportunity to be here today in these strange and exceptional circumstances. I spent the last 16 years as a researcher and analyst in the national security sector. I've managed and directed multi-million-dollar projects and provided complex systems analysis for some of the largest acquisition programs in government. I know where government works, and I absolutely know where it doesn't. 4 years ago, I reorganized my life to live here in the mountains in this place I fell in love with. I've advocated extensively for the reopening of Fire Station 2 and the hiring of 7 new firefighters, and to pay for them as the first priority of general funds revenue, not some afterthought dependent on grants or special tax increases. I've worked to pass Measure T, which eliminates vacation rentals in our neighborhoods. I've advocated extensively in opposition to the Loop Road, which will demolish homes in Rocky Point, one of our few genuinely affordable neighborhoods, and displace local families only to better speed tourists to Nevada's casinos. I've regularly engaged with the City Council and written on a wide range of local issues, including over-tourism, and for the reforming of police protocols for handling sexual assault victims. I volunteer with the Sheriff's Department Search and Rescue Team and the Warm Room Homeless Shelter. I believe in public service and in the value of giving back to this place, which has given me so much. I believe that government should serve the people, and that it's the locals that are the heart and the soul of this place we call home. I'm running to support the locals, the people who make this the place that it is. The bartenders and baristas, nurses and retirees, the people who live here, work here, play here. Our city continues to put the interests of the casinos, developers, and resorts first, and locals last. This must change, and this can change. My top priorities are fire, housing, roads, and over-tourism, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to dive into the details of these issues over the next 2 hours. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Doug Williams.
Good evening. My name is Doug Williams, and I've moved to this glorious town about 10 years ago. I've owned property for about 18 years. I love this town. I think we have some wonderful people here. They welcomed me with open arms. I do more and get more around this town and know more people It's just a wonderful place to live, and I want to give back to the community that's given me so much. The things that I want to take care of in this town is, I think that housing is an issue. It's our major issue in this town, and I think we can fix it without too much of a problem. The city is sitting on over $2 million of federal housing funds that we can use to rehab homes that have not seen people in decades. We need to talk to the owners of these properties. Many of them have either passed and their children don't know what to do with it, or they're elderly when they bought it 40 years ago. We need to go in and fix these homes up, put them into the market for low income housing. People who make under $60,000 a year would be able to live in these homes. These are simple things that we can do with this town. We also need to make sure that we're safe. We need to have a Firewise Council. We had a Firewise Council years ago. It, unfortunately, was mismanaged, and there was some embezzlement that went on. But we need a Firewise Council so that we can get grants to clean up our forest, to get rid of the underbrush that causes so much damage. We also need to have Firewise communities. And when we do our Firewise communities, we need to make sure that everybody in that community, whether it be El Tahoe, Gardner Mountain, or
About 10 seconds.
Track,
10 seconds. Doug.
the Sierra Track, we do a evacuation plan so that we know how to get out of town in case of a fire. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. So as I mentioned at the beginning, Luca Janassi couldn't be with us tonight. He did ask me to read his opening statement. So I will do that. And this is Luca speaking. I'm running for city council in an effort to give back to the community that gave me such an amazing childhood. I feel blessed to have been given the opportunity to enjoy many parts of what our beautiful lake and town have to offer. I want to see the next generation and my children have a similar childhood experience. I feel that the COVID pandemic has pushed people and government alike to a place of greater self-reflection. I believe as people, we are more closely analyzing why we do what we do in our lives. In government, I believe there's a greater likelihood now that policies will be more closely analyzed and change become more likely to occur in a more effective and efficient manner than we've seen. As a result, I'm convinced that as we navigate out of the pandemic, there will be greater opportunities to make positive, long-term, impactful change. My hope is to be part of shaping those changes as a member of the City Council. I graduated from South Tahoe High, then attended the University of California, Los Angeles, graduating in 2015. I came back to town with my passion for the town. I started a business now known as AleWorks. Beyond that, I dedicate my time to several nonprofit organizations, sitting on the Barton Foundation Board, the LTVA Marketing Committee, and the Tahoe Chamber Leadership Lake Tahoe Task Force. My plan is to take my resources and knowledge as a longtime local and now the owner of several local businesses to work towards reconnecting our community. If we don't focus on balancing our economy and environment, visitors won't want to come to visit, locals won't want to live here anymore. If education and public safety are not prioritized, we will not maintain nor attract permanent residents and families to better sustain our economy and community. Without recognizing these issues are interconnected, we won't be able to effectively and efficiently be able to resolve the challenges that face us. My mission is to give back to my hometown. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you, Luca. Okay, we're moving into the second part of the program this evening, and I'm going to turn it over to Scott McCoubrey and Mario Guerrero to ask the first round of questions. Gentlemen, please take it away.
Thank you, Steve. My name is Scott McCoubrey. I'm the Industry Program Coordinator for Advance in South Lake Tahoe. I'm also the chair of the Candidate Endorsement Committee. And tonight I'm joined by another member of that committee, Mario Guerrero, Program Manager at the Child Advocates of El Dorado County. We both represent the CEC this evening and we'll be moderating the forum. So the first question is going to go to John. John, what specific activities have you undertaken to prepare for your service as a city council member should you be elected?
Well, I've done a number of things. I've been recently on the Transformational Change Committee at the city, which has a platform for a direction of the city similar, I think, to the Tahoe Vision 2025 set of plans that I think will lead us to a more a community that's healthy and livable for all. I've worked at Liberty Utilities. I started a green job project to put people back to work in jobs like solar and EV charging installation this spring. I worked at the League to Save Lake Tahoe, and I've served on the Tahoe Fund Board and the board of the Sierra Nevada Alliance. I've been very involved in our schools as a PTA member, co-founded a parent organization called Small World. So I have been connected in multiple aspects of our community, from schools to community organizations to the private sector, and recently involved in job creation and a city committee working to make changes in our direction along the lines of what I laid out in my opening statement.
Thank you very much, John. Same question to Scott Robbins. Scott, what specific activities have you undertaken to prepare for your service as a city council member should you be elected?
I've reviewed the last 4 years of the municipal budget to understand where the money is coming from and where the money's actually going. I've spent a considerable amount of time engaging the city council in important municipal issues, including enforcement of VHR ordinances, including outreach in opposition to the Loop Road project. I've been a bit of a thorn in the side of many of the city council positions. I've written extensively on issues including how our police department handles sexual assault victims. And I've regularly engaged with writing on local issues in the newspaper. So I've in my work as a volunteer, I've gotten to know where the critical lapses in city services are.
Thank you very much, Scott. Leonard, what specific activities have you undertaken to prepare for your service should you be elected?
Well, I've dealt with all kinds of different people, specifically in my early years in the pastorate. And then after that, of course, dealing with the underprivileged through the foster care agency nonprofit, as well as a whole lot of interaction with those in the mental health fields, as well as the legal aspect of family court, as well as with the state in the whole aspect of starting a business, state with a contract with the state and making things in order to fulfill their desires and their requirements. Since then, also my experience with TRPA, I know my way around TRPA, and I also have that background in the ecology, in the area of forestry and understanding science. One of my hobbies is ultimately reading a couple of books every year on the philosophical understanding of what science is.
Got 5 seconds.
Personally, I'm somewhat appalled at.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I'm retired. I have all the time in the world to spend working on city issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leonard. Bruce, the same question to you. What specific activities have you undertaken?
I've been engaged with the city of South Lake Tahoe since in my late 20s. I was on a committee in 1978 dealing with issues regarding the future. I've been on the Planning Commission for 9 years. In 1989-90, I sat on the city council. I've been involved in a number of measures that have passed locally involving local citizens. I was on the city council for 4 years. I've been involved. I'm involved today. I'm a member of the APC, the Advisory Planning Commission. I've been engaged. I know how the city works. I think I'm the best qualified candidate to come back and deal with the city issues that we face. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Christy, same question to you. Specific activities you've undertaken to prepare for your service as a city council member.
As I mentioned, I have been in positions of board leadership, several nonprofits, most prominently Live Violence Free, and I've been involved at every school site that both of my daughters have been attending. And I was on the Lake Tahoe Unified School District Reopening Task Force this spring to attempt to figure out how to reopen the schools. But I think that the most important thing that I've done with regard specifically to becoming a city council member now is I've been meeting with lots and lots of people to hear what the concerns are throughout our community, to not assume that I know or we know what the concerns really are of our residents. So I've been doing that, and I've learned a lot that I didn't know, because I think that while each of us has our pockets of people, we can't presume to put our own judgment on what other people are thinking. I've been surprised by some of the things that I've heard. So I really look forward to bringing that to the council.
Thank you, Christy. Stacy?
Hi, thank you. Since I'm new to politics, I've been doing a lot of learning and listening, trying to find out what are people's priorities for this town, for their town. I have been learning a lot about what the city is focusing on. I've been involved with a lot of the meetings that have happening just to engage in the things that I have interest in, and also to listen to other people's opinions on things that I may disagree with. So I have also been working with our local Black Lives Matter group for the last 4 to 5 months, and we've been working with our local police chief, and was super excited for him to get the Stacks program going in, and it was one of our recommendations to bring on the Cahoots-like program. And so, and as someone who spent 3 years on a community plan team for the redevelopment of the Y, that got taken away from us 6 months before it was finished and then got trashed. I've been involved as a service person to the city, and see what has happened to some of our work that needed to get put through that didn't. So I'm interested in seeing how things work from the inside. Thank you. Sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you, Stacy. Doug, would you please share?
Yes, I am on a lot of nonprofit boards. I'm a city planning commissioner currently. I'm on the board of Christmas Cheer all year. I enjoy being on that board, helping people who have needs. I've worked with the county multiple times on helping their homeless people, put them in short-term housing. I also have worked with the the community college as on their committee that was helping to form a new curriculum for hospitality, for cooking, and for frontline personnel. I am currently on the board of the Tourism Improvement Board, so I understand, not tourism, the Tourism Improvement District, so I understand how our economy works. I am also helping spearhead a program to try and stop measure Proposition 15, which is going to destroy our retail properties by increasing their rents, because that tax will increase their rents because they're all on triple net leases, which could increase their rents as much as 75 cents a month per square foot. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
And Keith, could you please share with us some specific activities you've undertaken to prepare for your service should you be elected?
Well, I've been working with the LTCC on the advance. I'm on their culinary and hospitality apprenticeship advisory committee, and looking forward to watching that to continue to grow at a light speed, and certainly going to be a valuable asset to our community as we deal with growth. I represent Round Hill Pines at the South Lake Tahoe Restaurant Association. Was very involved in their meetings early on as COVID hit, and the shutdowns, and in the county health meetings, Zoom meetings, and offering what I can to support and best practices. I've been on the City Council website, absorbing as much as I can of past decisions. And I'm trying to get out there and touch as many of our city stakeholders and find out, get more information and insight from them.
Thank you very much. Mario is going to take the next question.
Alrighty, thank you, Scott. Good evening and welcome, candidates. This next question is layered, and I will be asking each of you to please address it. If you need me to repeat the question, please feel free to just request, and I'll be happy to. Alrighty, we'll start off with Mr. Doug Williams. Doug, are you familiar with the city revenue and expense projections developed by staff to inform council decisions in adopting the city budget for fiscal year 2021? Do you believe further budget cuts may be needed in the next 2 years? If so, what will be your approach in making those cuts?
Yes, I am very familiar with the city budget. As a matter of fact, I took a look back the city budget back in 2013, and we had a $28 million budget. In today's dollars, that's a $31.4 million budget, and now we're at a $41 million budget. So I'm kind of wondering, where did that $10 million go into? Is there things that we can fix to make sure that we can cover the shortfall that we may be coming in? After all, last year we had the Public Works Department. They spent they rebuilt a building for the Public Works, and they spent $300,000 over the reserve. Maybe we need to take a look at things like that. We also do things like spend $80,000 on a fireplace in the city hall. We spend money sending down city employees and council people down to Mexico for a sistership relationship. We need to take a close look at all of our budget line items and see where we can save in order so that we don't have to do drastic cuts to our core items. Thank you.
All righty, thank you, Doug. And Christy Cregan, do you mind answering that question for us? Thank you.
Sure. So yes, I have seen the budget and the expense projections. And I think that we can anticipate, with the uncertainty and unsettledness of the COVID situation that we're in right now, that there could be additional cuts that are shifting that we'll have to make. I think that the approach that I would take is to say that essential services is the first duty of a city. So that is where we would try to really minimize cuts as much as we could. And I think like Doug was saying, you would have to look at really closely at each line item. But at this point, I'm not ready to say any of the line items are inappropriate right now without a lot more information about what they are, because it's really easy to second guess what other people have already thought of, but I don't think we have enough information. I certainly don't have enough information and background right now to do that.
Ready. Thank you, Christy. And next we'll go to Mr. Leonard Carter.
You ever heard the expression, the devil's in the details? Let me just explain. There's a philosophical problem with the budget, and it's basically built upon the fact that they don't really itemize as to what is the most important, second most important, third most important, and so on. And then they don't stick to it, even if they give it verbal acquiescence. The orientation was very illuminating. And after sitting through 6 months of council sessions, as well as the Zoom sessions, it's very apparent. They throw all of this stuff into one bag. And in fact, at the orientation, they showed us about 20 items, all in the same bag. And none of them were said, this is the really most important item. And I agree. And every time I find this, everybody goes, oh yeah, the number 1, 2, 3, 4 things are fire and police and roads. Why don't we have enough money then to fix our roads? Well, the reason why is because they don't really itemize and say, we are definitely going to put the money into this infrastructure number one thing. They allow something that is already in the bag that they say, well, this is very important too, and it may be important.
You've got your
time.
time.
Money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. And next we will go to Mr. Bruce Greco.
Repeat the question, please.
My pleasure. Bruce, are you familiar with the city revenue and expense projections developed by staff to inform council decisions in adopting the city's budget for fiscal year 2021? Do you believe further budget cuts may be needed in the next 2 years? If so, what will be your approach in making those cuts?
First of all, when I was elected to the city council in 2008, the Great Recession hit us. And I'm familiar with the process and how we're supposed to try to address budget issues and making cuts if necessary to keep a balanced budget. I must say, however, that my priority would be to maintain police and fire, to continue fixing roads and other such essential services, and then look at the rest of the budget where issues can be addressed and monies could be saved. But that would be my approach. But the police and fire and roads would be an important element of any budget, and those would be the areas I would not necessarily cut.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Mr. Greco. And next, Mr. Keith Roberts, do you mind addressing that question?
Yeah, I haven't fully analyzed the budget as yet and the revenues and expenses, but obviously with the COVID events going on, it would be obvious that there's going to be shortfalls on revenues this year. Working for large international hotel companies, it's common to get budgets shoved down your throat. And so making cuts is not something I'm afraid of. But one thing I've learned and what's important is working with the city manager to make sure that there's a positive way of getting things done. Can we allocate some funds from another line item? Can we move things forward? But instead of just shoving cuts down the ladder, work with him closely and make sure that it's functional and that it can work out without a lot of harm done to our current budgets.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. And next we'll go to Mr. Scott Robbins.
Yeah, I thank you. We continue to spend money, even very recently, on expensive consultants, new logos, tourism advertising, trips to Mexico. This isn't working. We need to set real priorities for spending, the fire department, road maintenance, and then fund those critical services in priority order. We need to cut the nonsense spending first before going to the public and asking for new taxes. And then only if those lower priority items are truly justified, should we fund them by making tourism work for locals, raising the TOT, not sales taxes on the people who live here and work here.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And John, would you mind addressing the question?
Bet. Yes, the upcoming fiscal year budget, according to city staff, is about over $7 million less than the 2018-19 actual, and we're looking at ongoing deficits in the $6.5 million range, which threaten the major services the city provides. By far, of course, fire, police, and public works and roads take most of our budget. And according to city analysis, if Measure S doesn't pass, we're looking at not being able to repair our crumbling roads. So if I think if we're and with the uncertainty of COVID, we have to account for the possibility of that scenario. So I think being fiscally responsible means looking at ways to make sure we don't have to make cuts to our police, fire, and roads. And one way that I think we should engage the population is to have more engagement on our budget process in the city finance committee, participatory budgeting. Let's get the public in and really look at the details of the budget. And I think then we'll understand where the expenses are and where we need to raise revenue. And I do think the city staff, led by Joe Irvin, have done a good job of paring down expenses. The staff haven't taken raises and whatnot. So,
Thank you, John.
Yep.
I really appreciate that, John. And Stacy, do you mind addressing the question?
Hi, thank you. Yes, I am working on going through the budget. I've been more focused on being on the city calls about the budget so I can listen in, also listen to people's complaints on both sides. I was raised, I'm sure most of you were, with you either lower your expenses or raise your income. As soon as we opened up the roads to Tahoe, people flooded in. People are not going to stop coming to Tahoe, so we need to leverage that. We do need to lower spending that's going to things that, you know, are just ridiculous. And we need to look at TOTs and things like that. And also, yeah, to help support our roads and our infrastructure. That's what this town needs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mario. We'll move now to the next question. This is a two-part question, and we're going to start with Keith Roberts. Keith, do you support the city's proposed 1-cent sales tax increase to help fund basic city services? Why or why not?
Yes, I do support it, especially in this time with the COVID, where we need some way to get back our revenues so we can maintain our city services. As Stacy just said, the road's open, the tourists just came. We need to take advantage of that they're here and they're not going to stop coming, and they need to help us keep our town intact and our trash picked up, and hopefully that 1% will help give us some of the financial resources to do that.
Thank you very much, Keith. John, same question to you, please.
Yes, I do support it for the reasons I outlined before. I mean, if we're going to be fiscally responsible and be honest about where we are with, especially with the COVID downturn in the economy and a $7 million shortage in the upcoming fiscal budget versus 18, 19, if we don't want to cut police and fire and roads, which are the major categories, other things are not as much, then we have to invest in our community. We all like to get something for nothing, but I think it's the prudent thing to do. And also, when we think about the impact of day visitors, for example, on our roads, and taxing on our public safety providers, police and fire, this is a way to gather some revenue from our visitors to help pay for the infrastructure that supports their visit, and to not have all of the burden for maintaining our infrastructure placed on locals. So I think it's fiscally responsible. It helps us avoid cuts to key services, and it's equitable in terms of gathering revenue from both visitors and residents.
Thank you, John. Doug Williams, same question. Do you support the proposed tax increase?
I was on the last campaign committee. I helped do phone banking and things like that. And what that was only 0.5%, and it was dedicated to roads. It was short term. It was only 10 years period. This one here, I don't believe that we'll be able to. Most people will support it. It's a regressive tax. It goes directly to the general fund. We don't have any knowledge on where those funds are going to go. So no, I really don't support it. I think we can look at our budget tighter and figure out ways to make it so that we can live within our own means.
Thank you very much, Douglas. Scott Robbins, same question. Do you support the proposed sales tax increase? Why or why not?
Absolutely not. A sales tax is something that locals pay every time we go to the hardware store, every time we go to the ski shop, every time we buy a beer, order takeout, or buy a coffee. It hurts those who work here for the least wages the most, and lakefront property owners not at all. When we buy expensive things, it costs us even more, but it costs the tourists, who mostly spend small dollars here, the very least. Better alternatives included raising the transient occupancy tourist taxes, parking fees for non-residents, adopting a second homeowner's property or vacancy tax, or actually prioritizing spending. This is an example of the nuts and bolts of putting tourists first and locals last.
Thank you, Scott. Stacy?
I actually don't agree with this for similar reasons, that it puts another burden on locals. I do believe we need to really look hard at this toll tax, the toll on the roads, and have that, if our city council can bring that on and make a decision in October, we can start getting toll fees in 2023. I believe our local residents should not pay the toll. And I believe people commuting into the city to work should also not pay the toll. But we need funds that go directly to our infrastructure and our roads and our fire and our police. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stacy. Leonard, would you please share whether you support the sales tax increase? Why or why not?
I do not support it. There's a saying that goes like this: there are two things that are never satisfied, death and taxes. Seems like government never reduces. They always charge more in the form of taxes. I believe it was Revere back at the time of the Revolutionary War. He said that the power to tax is an awesome tax. He realized that you can also enslave people through the process of taxation. I believe that that's what's happening in our society, as it seems like taxes are always going up all over the place. This is a regressive tax. It's already been stated that it'll hurt the poor person the most. And we don't know where it'll go. If it goes into the general fund, we have no guarantees. We've seen things in the past. They go to the general fund, they get frittered away. And by the way, this is where we were also about 7 years ago, when this basically some people in the council said, oh no, we can't cut, we don't know where to cut, and so on and so forth. But if they don't have enough revenues, it makes the council and the city really do the hard work. And that's one of the things I'm really for. I just off the top of my head, I just do not care. Okay, I'll quit at that point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leonard. Appreciate it. Christy, can you please share your thoughts whether you support the proposed sales tax increase? Why or not? Why not?
Yes, I do very much support the sales tax increase. And I just want to make it really clear to everybody, it's a 1 cent. It's not a 1%. I very much support it because it really spreads it out between everyone. It's not, I see Scott shaking his head, it's 1 cent.
That's not correct. I've asked the city attorney exactly that question because it was written that way, and that is untrue. I'm sorry, it's just not true.
Yeah, let's let Christy answer, please. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Well, okay. I think that it's my opinion that in this time of increased uncertainty, that in order to be sure that this city has the funds to pay for the things that our community, in a recent community survey, said that it wanted to prioritize were emergency services, first responders, our police and fire. We don't have the funds to pay for those things. And I understand everybody's positions about balancing and such, but the money simply isn't there. And cutting other things isn't going to get us there to the thing that our community has said is its #1 priority. So I am in favor of Measure S, the tax, the increase in tax.
Thank you very much, Christy. And Bruce, would you please share your thoughts?
You're muted, Bruce.
I know.
There you go.
I gave the answer. No. First, you have to understand that sales tax have a built-in cost of living. As goods go up in price, and they continue to do so, the government takes in more money with the same tax rate. I wrote the argument against Measure S, and it's going to be published in the voters' pamphlet. I am surprised that the government would try to tax locals during these hard times. Businesses have been torn apart with COVID, and now they want to have more taxes from us. I don't support it. The city needs to live within its means. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Mario, could you please ask the next question for us?
Absolutely. And thank you, Scott. Alrighty, candidates, this next question is from the general public, and it is a two-part question. We will begin with Mr. Scott Robbins. Scott, what is your view of the city's COVID-19 response in protecting businesses and the community? What would you like to see differently?
I would describe the city's response as largely indifferent. We raced to reopen to tourism, to basically unlimited, reckless tourism as fast as humanly possible. We could have had a gradual soft opening with locals only for about a month to make sure that we actually understood how to operate safely. And instead we flew open the doors. And as Tahoe was the only vacation destination location in this region that was open, we got more tourist traffic here in the last summer than in just about any amount of recent memory. We account for 10% of the county's population, but 50% of all COVID cases. This is not taking matters seriously, and I have some personal experience with this. I was South Lake Tahoe's #3 confirmed positive case of COVID, and I still have persistent lung issues that have not yet healed. So this is something that needed to be taken seriously and that needed to be done with consideration of what are the actual needs for the locals, not just for the tourism industry and the casinos and the resorts. And that wasn't done.
Alrighty, thank you, Scott. And Ms. Stacy Ballard, do you mind addressing the question?
40% of Americans live with at least one chronic illness. That means the people that they live with are also vulnerable. As somebody who spent 3 months on a ventilator, none of you would like it, I promise you. The city did not take a good stance on this. We should have demanded people wear masks. We should have educated visitors coming in. We should have offered loans to our small businesses when they couldn't get them through the national or federal government. There were lots more options. Our city was overrun. We should have given the small businesses the power to say, you don't get in without a mask. They didn't have the city's backup to say that, and that's what they needed to be able to handle people.
Ready, thank you, Stacy. And Mr. Greco, we can have you address the question.
There you go. I think what has happened is so unprecedented that it's easy to look back now and say the city should have done this or the city should have done that. I know how hard the businesses have been hit. I know in March and April, the phone stopped ringing in my office. And I know a lot of other people were hurt. I understand that some feel that we should be absolutely in a safe position before we reopen, but I don't think that's possible. I think dealing with the masks and the distance issues is the best we can do. And hopefully maybe by the end of the year, we might have some kind of vaccine to really address this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greco. And Mr. Doug Williams, do you mind addressing the question?
I think the city did a horrible job at the very beginning of this pandemic. They took over, after we closed at the end of March, they took over a month to decide if they're going to help the businesses in our town. They were suffering, they were scared. They did not know how to get the payroll protection loans. The city should have took a lead in finding out how we can get the payroll protection loans, contacted each and every single business owner so that they could survive during this pandemic. They did their went back and forth. They came back with something that was a ice cream truck going down the road giving free food. Those are not real answers for our business or our citizens. Finally, they got smart and they gave money to our local food banks who know how to give the food out. I also was the one that came up with the ambassador program so that we would talk to people to get them to wear a mask. And I think we need to understand that our numbers are great right now and they're coming down even lower. We have some of the best in the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Doug. And John, do you mind sharing your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the city, let's face it, we're in a tough spot. We have mixed messages coming from the top down early on about whether even to wear masks. And you saw before the state order, a lot of people not wearing masks. So, we're operating in that context. We also have different rules than Nevada. One thing I think the city did right that we could have done maybe more aggressively is try to get the governors to talk to each other to align our policies. It would make sense for me to track COVID numbers for the Tahoe Basin. and kind of respond accordingly. I think now if you go out, I've seen, I think the businesses are doing a good job of enforcing the mask mandate, and people are doing better. I think that the city had the short-term committee formed that provided some direct support for local organizations. And I think the communication from Chris Fiore and others around, public health practices and masks have paid off. So I think it was tough. I think in the future, we really need to think about how to align when we have different rules across state lines and what the implications are for health when you can, have things open on one side and not the other, and how do we deal with that effectively?
All right, thank you, John. And next we'll go to Mr. Keith Roberts.
Yeah, in the early months, when all the restaurants in town were just takeout, on the restaurant meetings, the majority of them mentioned that the majority of their customers were from out of the city, or even a lot of them even out of the state. So you really can't stop the tourists from coming. I think the city dropped the ball in supporting our small businesses and helping them prepare for what was coming. And I think we could have opened sooner with more support from the city, and supporting them with mask enforcement and social distancing enforcement. And with the angry tourists, the small entity that has scarred it for everybody. But I think we could have gotten to a little bit better place for all of our business owners a little sooner.
All righty, thank you, Mr. Roberts. And next we'll go to Mr. Leonard Carter.
Leonard? Oh, looks like Leonard is frozen. Let's maybe go to someone else and give Leonard a chance to thaw.
Sounds like a plan, Steve. All righty, Miss Christy Cregan.
Well, I'm going to be the odd guy out here because I kind of support
Go ahead, Christy.
the city council.
Emily, you? Okay, go ahead, Christy. Sorry.
Okay, thanks. That's okay. I just don't want to speak over him. I agree with the comments that have been made that it's really easy now in hindsight to look back and say, why didn't the city do this? Why didn't the city do this? The tourism was a challenge, but I think that is in large part the result of all the mixed messages that we were getting, national, state, county, really from everybody. I think that the education of everyone, education to tourists and education to our residents about mask wearing, this is what you need to do, all of those things. But I will say that the city did do several things. The city created the Resistance Fund and gave money to local businesses. Freshies was the first one that for COVID recovery. The city gave out the $100,000 of restaurant vouchers that supported, hungry people as well as supported our local businesses. And the last one is the city did pay for PPE supplies for local businesses up to 50% of whatever you spent. So I feel like the city response was there. It maybe wasn't it wasn't 100% perfect, but the city response was there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Christy. And we'll try Mr. Leonard Carter one more time.
Leonard, are you there? Can you unmute yourself? Like he might be having internet issues. So Mario, have you finished asking this question with all the other candidates?
That's correct, Steve. Leonard was our last candidate.
All right. Well, if Leonard comes back, we'll try to circle back on that question. But meanwhile, I think we need to.
All right.
On.
Okay. Back on.
He should be back on now.
I just wanted to say that. On. Hello.
Go ahead, Leonard. You're kind of fit out.
I just wanted to say that hindsight is always 20/20. We always figure out what to do, but this thing was something that even Fauci said it's out of control. I don't expect perfection out of any board because I'm not a perfect person when it's something that is like this. I think that the state handed down mixed messages, and I know that our council endeavored to perform those to pretty much to its best of ability. Maybe the only thing is they could have been more proactive about wearing masks. But I maintain we end up with another situation, such as a plague pandemic or something of that nature, or something else which is extremely volatile, which is out of control. That's what Fauci said. We don't know what it's going to do next. It's hard to make the best policy under those circumstances.
Thank you, Leonard.
So that's where I stand on that. One last thing, and that is that COVID is going to be over. All pandemics, they time out. That's scientifically, historically proven. This one will also.
Okay, thank you, Leonard. Appreciate it. We need to move on.
The honest science. So possibly in 6 months, all COVID things are going to be over.
Emily? Thank you, Leonard. Scott?
Thank you, Steve. This next question is, we're going to start off with Bruce, and this is another question from the public, and it is a two-part question. Do you believe the current city council has done enough to help local businesses as we continue to be in the grip of the coronavirus pandemic? And what else do you think can be done?
As I had stated earlier, I don't think asking for a tax increase in sales tax is helpful for businesses. I don't think they're moving in the right direction. I think we need to explore what we're doing with zoning, what we're doing with regulations, and how we can reduce the level of government involvement with businesses so they can make economic decisions in the marketplace instead of being controlled by city government. I think that's where I would like to focus. How do we reduce the regulations? How do we make things easier to do things instead of having a permit for everything you do? And that's where I would like to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Christy, same question. Do you believe the current city council has done enough to help local businesses as we're still in the grip of the coronavirus pandemic? And what else do you think can be done?
I think that's a great question. I think that the city council, as I said, those different COVID response funds and measures really did help local businesses. I think that the Measure S sales tax I see it as a double bonus in that if you buy something here in our community, you help a local business, you help a business, and then it also helps the city because you're also contributing to that sales tax. I think that increased infrastructure, the city can go that way with reliable broadband that will help everyone. We obviously are seeing increased remote workers coming here, and that will be a strong pull for people and provide greater connectivity. So I see that the city could be involved in that as well.
Great, thank you, Christy. Keith, same question to you.
As I said earlier, I think they could have done more. I think they're just a little slow in reacting. I think there are opportunities perhaps to work more closely with the county. And as we're one of the least hit areas in the state, perhaps we could have had, they could have stepped up more for us and got our businesses open, at least the outdoor dining a little bit sooner than they did. Again, also supporting them with a little bit of more enforcement with the angry tourists that are coming in and refusing to wear masks and so on. And I know that a lot of them expressed just that they've been left out there in the cold and just having to deal with themselves. So perhaps some sort of task force or a committee could have been put together to give a little bit more support to our small business owners.
Thank you, Keith. Stacy, same question to you. Do you believe the current city council has done enough for local businesses, and what else do you think can be done?
I think they're running to catch up. I think it's gotten better that we've made more demands about enforcing masks, which is really good. I think what we have to concentrate on now is finding out how to help a lot of these businesses through the winter, because a lot of our restaurants have people eating outdoors. And how are we going to help them transition into the winter months? Because I don't think we're going to have the in-between seasons that we normally do. Usually there's a lull in tourism, but since we have so many people working from Tahoe remotely, that I think we need to start helping our businesses figure out how to keep customers coming in during the winter season when capacity can't be as much.
Thank you, Stacy. John, can you provide your thoughts, please?
Yeah, I think the city has done some good things, as Christy outlined, with some of the short-term recovery. City formed a transformational change committee to look at things like diversifying our economy, investing in walkable town centers that would feature local businesses. Those are things a little bit over time. We certainly need to invest in our broadband infrastructure here to support remote workers. Our kids are studying at home. A lot of them don't have good access to Wi-Fi, so that's important for all of our community, including our businesses. And another thing I think we can do short term is just partner with the Chamber's Buy Local campaign. I'd love to see the city really say, it's kind of our patriotic Tahoe duty to support our local business. Now every dollar you spend, a percentage of that stays to help build our roads and support our firefighters and our police. Let's stop going off the hill, and really right now this is when our local businesses need us. So even if you're against the sales tax increase, if you spend your money right now, it's staying local. So that's another thing I think we could really amplify.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Doug, do you believe the current city council has done enough to help local businesses, and what else do you think should be done?
No, I don't. I think they're way too slow in support of the local businesses. It was almost 2 months before they even came out with a plan. Freshies was brought up. Freshies is still not open up, even on their outdoor, because they needed money to fix their stairs. So the resiliency fund, it hasn't really helped anybody. Freshies was the only one that I know of that the money has been approved for. As far as start changing our economy so that people working from at home, we're talking tech people. That's what we're talking. Our people, our locals currently in this town cannot go up against people who are making much more money in the housing that we have now. They're getting outbid. We need to have more affordable housing. That's how we help our people. Our businesses need to have employees, have more affordable housing so that they can hire people. So affordable housing is what we need to work on.
Thank you very much, Doug. Scott, can you share your thoughts, please?
Yeah, let me just start off with being clear on something. Raising sales taxes does not help local retail, and it does not help locals who have to pay it at all. The council did help out a bit early on with support for PPE, which is good, but it hasn't helped at all with the relentless over-tourism that's trashed our beaches and trails, or with the fire department, which has been various fire departments, which have been putting out tourist campfires left and right. And if our town burns down, as did Paradise 2 years ago, nothing else we do will matter. On the smaller scale, we could do things like stop putting up entirely unnecessary roadblocks for our cannabis businesses. And for all the massive time and attention we've paid to cell towers, we've done nothing to help improve wired internet, which supports all local businesses, retail, tourism, and otherwise. So those are things that we can do, but we haven't yet done.
Thank you, Scott. And Leonard, can you please share with us whether you believe this current city council has done enough to help local businesses, and what else do you think can be done?
Leonard, you might try turning off your camera and see if the audio would just work. No, you did the opposite. We need your audio on and your camera off. Yeah. All right. Can you hear us?
I think that they need to continue to consider those items, whether it's technology. Okay, am I on now?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. I think that I'm sorry, what? I'm on?
Yes.
Am I on? Yeah, I apologize. I think it might be best if I just get off the air because I feel like I'm time. What's that? I'm sorry. Why don't you go on and I think I'll get off.
Leonard,
Thank you.
why not call by the
Can you
telephone?
hear that?
Yeah. Maybe Emily can give you.
Okay. I think let the meeting go on and I'll just remain off. Thank you. Sorry to bother you this way.
It's not a bother. Doesn't look like you can hear us, but you can call in and Emily can help you with that process if you need help, because we want you to continue to participate. All right, Scott, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Steve. Mario, can you please take the next question for us?
Thank you, Scott. I'll be happy to. Alrighty, candidates, this next question is a three-part question. And we'll start off with Mr. Keith Roberts. Keith, are you familiar with Tahoe 2025, a South Shore community vision, prepared and published earlier by Tahoe Chamber? What thoughts do you have about the community vision described in this document? Do you find yourself in alignment with some or all of the vision?
Yes, I'm familiar with it. And I happen to think it was very well done, and I believe in almost all of it. I think I think a lot of it is in practice, or is already moving forward and seeing some great improvements in the aesthetics of our community. One of the things, I do have big concerns about the Loop Road. I've seen a lot of negative information about it. I think there's a lot of more work and planning needs to be done to make that successful, if at all. My big concern is affordable housing. As an employer in this town or a hiring manager, it's really difficult to get good workers and good staff and good help in this town. And if we can't make it affordable for them to live here, our whole town, as it grows and the more affluent businesses and clients come in, we're not going to be able to keep up, and they won't be a success, and we'll just have some pretty empty business buildings.
Alrighty, thank you, Keith. And next we'll go to Ms. Stacy Ballard.
I was worried you were going to do that because I've been looking at so much information that the 2025 plan is not is kind of mixed up with everything else. So I apologize to everybody that it's not at the forefront of my head and all its policies. I do not agree with the Loop Road going in because of the low income housing it will take out with those people being displaced. I will, of course, be studying the plan, whether I'm a city council member or not. I will fight for the low income people of this town. So that is part of my plan, is to be able to continue looking at all this stuff. I apologize for not being more informed right now on that.
All righty, thank you, Stacy. And next we'll go to Mr. Scott Robbins.
Yes, I'm familiar with it, and I fundamentally disagree with this vision. It's a vision of a Disneyland in the mountains, a place where people visit, but nobody really lives. I fundamentally oppose the Loop Road project, which will demolish homes in the Rocky Point neighborhood, one of our few truly affordable neighborhoods, and a primarily Hispanic neighborhood, all for the purposes of building a 4-lane highway which will speed tourists to the Nevada casinos. We need solutions and a vision of the future that moves beyond the singular industry of tourism. We will always be a resort destination, but that need not be the only thing we ever be here in Tahoe. We need to diversify our economy to include industries that are not just about exploitation of our natural environment, but that actually work for the people that live here and that provide jobs year round. And this isn't the vision for that.
All right, thank you, Scott. And Ms. Christy Cregan.
Thanks. The parts of the vision that stick out for me are like Keith was saying, the affordable housing. I agree that's really a big issue. The things that I like are the accessory dwelling units. I live in the El Tahoe neighborhood, and there are probably a good 30% in my neighborhood have little units behind or above that really seem to work, and that increases the ability also for this neighborhood to be walkable and livable. And that's another piece of the vision that I really like, is the increase in kind of the town center concept, in which people get out of their cars and our small businesses are there. It's healthier, it's more community oriented. So I really like both of those. And I like the Vision's infrastructure investment, because we need to have a town that we invest in for the long term and can be proud of. So those are the parts of the vision that really resonate with me.
All righty, thank you, Christy. And next we'll go to Mr. Bruce Greco.
This plan, that's a proposal for over 5 years. I like some of the ideas being proposed and trying to do more with housing. I don't support the idea of increasing taxes, and there's several proposals in that plan to increase taxes. I also have worked to stop the Loop Road, not only for the fact that it goes through a neighborhood and displaces a lot of people, but it also circumvents traffic away from the California side of local businesses in the state line area. And so there's ideas there that are, some have merit and others I can't support. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bruce. And next we'll ask Mr. Doug Williams to share his thoughts.
I support most of that, of the plan. I believe that we have a lot of tired buildings in our city, and they need to be updated or taken away and redone. Infrastructure, roads definitely need to be worked on. We definitely need more housing for our local citizens, affordable housing. I think I'm the only one that have proposed need sort of a plan for our local housing. Everybody talks about housing, but they don't tell us how they would accomplish this. I've given a plan. I think we need to go with people that can give plans on how to accomplish our goals.
Perfect, thank you, Doug. And next we'll go to Mr. John Freerich.
All right, there's a lot to like in here, and I encourage people to read it. And I think it also aligns well with the city's transformational change committee draft recommendations. I think those are well aligned and offer us a good direction forward. Let me just go through as many as I can. On the economy, I like the part about higher wage jobs and a more diverse economy in sectors like health and wellness and sustainable outdoor recreation. In housing, Doug, I like your idea about unlocking some of the existing inventory, and that's in there. I also support permitting accessory dwelling units. They could put people to work making them. I support the recreation section, more biking and hiking trails, including finishing the Greenway from Myers to State Line. Infrastructure, public transit available, free 24/7. That's a great vision. Health and wellness, more support for mental illness. I really support, I met with Chief Stevenson and the South Tahoe Alternative Collaborative System stacks to better integrate police and mental health is a great direction. And then public safety, essential for business and residents to support the funding necessary to ensure we have professional law enforcement, fire, first responder services that protect our lives, property, and community infrastructure. That's key. That's why I support Measure S. Environmental protection, getting to 100% renewable goal as quickly as we can. And then the arts and culture. I think we need more live music and art in the 56-acre project and all of our town hubs, and to really bring that part of our community to life. And that's another section in here as well. So I think there's a lot to like there, and I would encourage people to kind of dive in. You might be surprised as you know, as a community resident, how much there is that you could support.
John?
Yeah.
All righty, thank you, John. And next we'll go to Mr. Leonard Carter. And Mr. Carter, if you were unable to hear the question, feel free to let me know and I'll be happy to repeat it for you.
Repeat, please. Go ahead,
Yes.
repeat it. Am I on?
So
Sounds-
Leonard, in your invite,
It
there's a
doesn't
phone
appear
number.
that
I think if you could call in, we could all hear your responses and you could hear the questions. So there is a phone number to call in your invite. So Emily, I think, we'll try to get back to Leonard if he calls in.
Okay, thank you.
So where are we in the questioning, Mario?
Steve, that was our last candidate in terms of responding to that question.
Thank you. Scott?
We're ready to transition into the next question, and I'll provide some context. It's a two-part question, so I'll provide some context and then the two-part question. Christy, we're going to start with you. New City Police Chief David Stevenson recently announced a new collaboration involving the Police Department, Tahoe Coalition for the Homeless, El Dorado County Behavioral Health, Barton Health, and the Cal Tahoe JPA Ambulance Service. First question, are you familiar with this new approach to non-traditional field interventions? And can you say if you support this new approach?
Yes, I am familiar with it. And I was really hoping that the question that I had to be first on, I had heard of it before. So yes, you're speaking of the STACS program, which is definitely a really fantastic way to approach community policing, in that our police are often called out on to go to a situation in which they're not necessarily trained for the best. There could be someone better. So this partnership will definitely go to that. And I also saw that as part of this, or as a corollary to this, the psychiatric emergency response team, the police department has been in a partnership with Live Violence Free for a similar type of response team that's joint funded for several years, that's been very successful, and the police have been very responsive. So I'm really hoping that this new STACS program will be great for our community.
Thank you, Christy.
Thanks.
John, are you familiar with this new approach? And can you say if you support it?
100% support it. Yes, I actually met with Chief Stevenson a couple of weeks ago, and he kind of talked me through the project and kind of just the basic idea of more coordination, casework, following up on people that may be experiencing domestic violence or drug abuse and other situations that are best handled by mental health providers. Stacy mentioned this earlier. This really came out of a recommendation for the Movement for Black Lives, which I was proud to stand with throughout Lakeview Commons. And I think it's really admirable that the conversation that from leaders of that group with Chief Stevenson advocating for a program like this, like Stacy mentioned, Cahoots in Eugene, Oregon. He adopted it to our local circumstances and has put it forward here to be rolled out soon. So I just think this shows that we can have, our police chief is responding to the request of the community, and we're having a good conversation between law enforcement that respects all people equally with equal treatment, and that is responding with a common sense program that will allow the police to target their resources where they're best used, while collaborating better with mental health providers to intervene where it makes most sense for them to be on point. So I think this is a great program, and I commend the police Chief Stevenson for putting it forward and being responsive to the community.
Thank you, John. Doug, your thoughts, please?
Yes, I am familiar with the STACS program. I believe that getting mental health involved quicker into a situation can help out in many cases, as well as for drug abuse. I think one of our major problems up here is that we need to have a better relationship with supervisors in the rest of the county to let them know our needs. One of the things besides mental health is that we also have to have housing for some of the people who have mental health issues and drug abuse issues. We need to get them into some drug programs so that they can hopefully come off their drugs. I am glad that the Coalition for the Homeless is working on the Home Key program. Hopefully that'll help them out with some of our long-term mental health issues and drug abuse.
Thank you. Keith, can you let us know if you're familiar with this new approach and whether you support it?
Well, I had heard of it, but I wasn't familiar with it. I've learned a lot about it just now, listening to my fellow candidates speak. And one of my childhood friends is a homeless person out in the Bay Area. And as several of us try to get him help in and out of time, the bottom line is he doesn't want help. He just wants to be out there alone. That's the life he's chosen. And that's where it's hard to believe, but it sounds like this program is multifaceted, and that's what it needs to be, because there's a lot of different reasons people are out there, and we need to address all of them as best we can. And maybe people like my friend, the best we can do is give them a little more higher level of safety than they might already have had. But I think the program sounds very promising.
Thank you very much. Leonard, can you let us know if you're familiar with this new approach to non-traditional field interventions and whether you support this new approach?
He's offline.
Okay. Then we're going to go to Stacy. Are you familiar with this new approach, and can you say you support it?
Yes, I was part of the group that brought it to the chief of police. The Cahoots-like program takes about 20% of police calls off their plate so they can focus on what they need to, and only costs about 4% of the police budget. So it's going to be a huge help to our police department. And I'm so excited that the chief of police worked with our local Black Lives Matter group. We have a wonderful group of people working. As someone who deals with mental illness myself, I understand the complexities of it. I'm also a grateful member of our local Al-Anon, and we need those types of services, and to educate not only our locals that these services are widely available, but our visitors need those rooms as well. So I fully support this, and will be pushing for more of mental health services, addiction services, and other programs like that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Bruce, can you share with us if you're familiar with this program and whether you support it?
I support the program. You know, it's been missing for too long, the mental health component in these issues, and dealing with people that have that issue will be more effective than just applying law enforcement issues. And so I support it.
Thank you very much, Bruce. And Scott, can you please share with the audience?
Yeah, and thank you for bringing this topic up. It's an underappreciated and advertised, understood important program. This is a change that's based on the Cahoots program, and this kind of partnership is a really excellent example of police modernization at its very best. I've volunteered at the Warm Room, and I've met some of the people that this kind of program will benefit. Our police department is tiny, and we've been asking them for years to do much too much. Homeless outreach, mental health coordination, drug addiction, all have been placed in the hands of the police department. This is a genuinely positive change in our community, and will help our police department focus on their core mission, which is public safety. So real credit for our department, and the groups that they're coordinating with are really well deserved here. And I would really like to see the City Council get the word out that this is an example of real positive change that can be affected by local government. I don't think enough people are really aware of this program, and I think credit's where it's due.
Thank you very much, Scott. I'm going to turn the next question over to Mario. Mario, please.
Appreciate that, Scott. All right, candidates, this next question is a two-part question, and we're going to go ahead and start with Mr. Bruce Greco. Bruce, what is your definition of the term over-tourism? In your view, what role can the city play in helping to achieve a balance in our community approach to tourism, which is still the primary driver of city revenue?
Over-tourism has become a popular term in the last year. And people are looking at our current experience with tourism in trying to set rules or guidelines or take positions. I think 2020 is an exceptional, different year than we've ever experienced. We have to recognize that we are a tourist-based community. I think some of the problems that we have experienced, such as with parking, trash, has been a failure of government to prepare for these kind of issues. Yes, there might be some areas within the basin where we have more of a control on how many people attend at a certain time. I believe Sand Harbor has something like that. But we are still, with all the discussion, election after election, about expanding our economy, we have to recognize this is how we make our bread and butter. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. And John, if you don't mind sharing your thoughts, please.
Yeah, well, this is one where I think we need to come together to find a win-win. Bruce is right. I think it's about 60% of our economy is dependent on tourism. Our hardworking businesses, which were hit during the COVID meltdown, are dependent on tourism. On the other hand, we've had we've seen folks in the community protesting because we've seen the impacts of COVID spread, trash and traffic, and noise, the Lake 2.0 event, which I think we could all come together and say it shouldn't happen again. So I think the question is, how do we both welcome visitors but manage it better and have a better balance so that we are having people park where we want them to park, gathering some revenues. There's probably different ways to do that to help offset the impacts, especially from day visitors who impact our police and fire and roads, and have other impacts. How can we have them contribute to helping to offset those impacts? And then ultimately, I think, how can we reduce the impact of car visitation? If we had the same number of people coming, but they had half the number of cars, I think we'd experience many fewer impacts. So that gets into providing some of the Vision 2025 transportation alternatives and managing people and getting them out of their cars and having them stay in the tourist core and being able to go to places where they can walk and not drive everywhere. So I think we can get to a solution, but I think this is an example where we need to. We're not going to shut the tourism down, but at the same time, we've seen a lot of impacts that have caused a lot of backlash. And I think we really need to think about how tourism pays for itself and how we better manage it.
Thanks, John.
All right, John, appreciate that. And Stacy, do you mind sharing your thoughts?
Thank you. Yeah, I explain over tourism like this. I have a table for 10 in my house, but I invite 200 people over for dinner. 10 people are going to be able to sit at my table. 190 are not going to have a good time at my house. And the 10 sitting at my table are not going to have that great of experience either. Disneyland actually started shutting down their gates and allowing only a certain amount of people in their parks because people weren't getting the same experience with their parks being overrun. Since they started doing that, they've been making more money. So it's not complicated. There's many places that are doing it around the United States and around the world. We need to start acting more like Yosemite and Yellowstone and stop acting more like McDonald's, like I feel like we are. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Stacy. And next we'll go to Mr. Keith Roberts.
I think the term over tourism is a little bit exasperated because of the COVID, the tourists are all pent up with the, being locked up so long, and they get up here and they act a little less controlled than they normally might have. And I think those of us up here are also lacking patience that we might otherwise have because we're frustrated and we're tired as well. But I think a lot of these challenges with the trash, enforcing the parking, looking at limiting the tourists, I think that's why we have a city government, and I think our city government needs to step up and do more.
You're muted there, Mario. There you go.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate your thoughts, Mr. Roberts. Next, we will go on to Ms. Christy Cregan.
Thanks. I would reframe even the question to call it not over tourism, but sustainable tourism, because I think that we all understand that tourism is a part of our community. It has been an issue, just like it's been for two beautiful spots all over the world. And I think that as a community, we lack the appropriate management tools. I know that Stacy and others have mentioned the One Tahoe program, which is a Tahoe Transportation District comprehensive plan, but part of it is a basin entry fee that through which we could manage entry into the basin, because the city council can't close the roads. You know, the city council has a specific role. And so what I would like to see in terms of this is the city council collaborating more effectively with other jurisdictions in order to, as a basin wide, really get a handle on how many people can we have here, how can they have the best experience, and how can we maintain funding for the people who live here all the time through the visitors that come here. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Christy. We appreciate that. And next we'll go to Mr. Doug Williams.
One of our main issues with tourism is roads, actually the transportation. A few years back, I worked with the League Save Lake Tahoe on trying to get the chariot program implemented. I was a liaison between the hotels and Marissa Fox, who was heading up that for the league. We need to have some microtransit system in here so that we can get people from one point of the town to another. We need to be able to take people out to Emerald Bay so we don't have the congestion out there. We get them out in big buses or even the micro buses. Transportation is our biggest issue. We need to have 15-minute transportation between each buses, in between each bus. The North Shore, TART has a great bus service. Ours does not. We spend maybe $9 million a year, and we really need to find out how we can get a better bus service. Plus, part of the problem with all the trash is most of the people are complaining about the trash on the federal beaches. The city beaches is changing their trash is 3 times a day. The beaches for Baldwin and Pope, they are sorely needing some help out there, and they are understaffed because they didn't hire back their staff that they needed to handle the amount of people that we normally do get.
Thank you, Doug.
We appreciate that, Doug. Mr. Robbins, do you mind sharing your thoughts?
Any definition of over-tourism has to include what we've seen this summer. The phrase Tahoe needs tourists has long since become a get out of responsibility free card, an excuse to justify the exploitation of our environment, the displacement of our locals, and the sacrifice of our neighborhoods and homes. We are constantly presented with a false choice between reckless unlimited tourism and no tourism at all. This is the brass tacks of putting tourism first and locals last. We need a better balance, and we need economic diversification. Our city can raise the transient occupancy tourism tax to 16%. It can increase the fines for littering to $800 and actually issue citations. We can begin the long-term multi-jurisdictional work that's needed to establish vehicle entry limits into the basin, much like Yosemite. Long-term, however, we need diversification in our economy. We need to take the edge off. Our city can encourage and assist in the development of non-tourism industry, including expansion of Barton Hospital into a center of excellence for orthopedic and sports medicine, much like the Stedman Clinic in Vail, which brings in fellowships and patients from around the world. We can expand our outdoor wilderness education programs through LTCC and attract schools such as Knowles. And most critically, we can improve our wired internet service that supports bringing businesses to Tahoe that can operate locally and serve clients remotely. Most critically, the expansion of local non-tourism businesses will help our service economy, enlarging a customer base that actually lives here, buys here, and shops here year round, helping to level out some of the seasonal boom and bust cycle of our tourism industry. We are, of course, a resort community, but that need not be the only thing we ever are. We do not have to have tourism only first, second, and last.
Thank you, Scott. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Mario. We're going to move on to the next question. And Stacy, this question is going to you. What opportunities do you see for the city in developing the 56-acre tract master plan?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Absolutely. What opportunities do you see for the city in developing the 56-acre tract master plan?
I'm excited about it, about returning things back to normal, creating more open space. Excuse me. We do have to diversify. We are a place that needs to have people coming up here to enjoy the environment, get out during all seasons, whether you're walking on trails, going for a hike, or snowshoeing. We need to make that more available to visitors instead of sending them to State Line. That's what tourists are coming for. They're trying to get away from their cities and towns. They want to come somewhere unique, hang out with locals who are bird watching or kayaking. I support anything that opens more space for people to get out into nature. And I think it's a great idea. I support it.
Thank you, Stacy. Scott, your thoughts?
There's a lot in there to like, and there's a lot in there that raises eyebrows, including things like relocating and rebuilding the city hall. That's an expense that's just sort of absolutely not necessary. But in terms of bike lane construction and bike transit and more outdoor recreation, yes, of course, these are good things. And it's important to understand that a lot of times we tend to see bike trails as competitors for transit activities and road maintenance, but that's simply not true. Every bike that's on the road is a one fewer car and one less car trip worth of traffic. So there's a lot in there to like. There's a lot in there that's in the details, that's in the weeds, that really goes to the issues of how are we spending money wisely, and do we really need to spend on things that aren't critically necessary, that don't directly go to the top set of priorities, especially as we're facing constricting budgets under COVID. So on the outdoor recreation bike trail side, yes. On some of the construction projects for city government, absolutely not. So there's things in there that are good and bad, and that's the reality of the minutia of city planning.
Thank you, Scott. Christy, can you please share what opportunities you see for the city in developing the 56-acre tract?
I'm really excited about the 56-acre tract because I love where it is right here in the middle of town. And I think it could be a sort of a town center concept that has small businesses open, in town open space, bikeways. It connects to the rec center. It connects to Harrison Avenue. It really provides a center corridor. I'm frankly sort of mixed on the town hall concept. I go back and forth about it because while I think that it would be a great investment for our community and have pride and a sense of place, I think probably right now in the short term with budget issues such as we have, that a construction project like that is probably not the right thing, but that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be in the plan. I like the concept overall. Having a place that people can go to that's not the airport ultimately for government offices, I think it would be a really strong sense of place thing for our community.
Thank you very much. Keith, could you please share your thoughts as to what opportunities you see for the city in developing the 56-acre tract?
I kind of agree with Scott that there's a lot of good things that are in there and a few that are problematic. I do like looking at the new trails that are bike trails and hiking trails that are coming up around town. That certainly shows promise and love to see more of that. I'm quite frankly a little confused. Are we building this to enhance the community of the lifestyle of our residents, or is this to attract more tourists and give the tourists more things to what we're doing here? It seems to me that what they're planning on doing is kind of caught in the middle of that. I think we need more planning on that.
Keith, thank you. Doug, what opportunities do you see?
I love most of the plan. I mean, which is why myself and the Lodging Association led the way for Measure P, which added a 2% TOT tax. This is something that is well needed. The recreation center is old and dated. Moving it over to a new location will save money versus tearing down to the old location. I'm not convinced that we need a new city hall down there or moving the police station. I think it's a waste of money that could be well used into fixing our roads. Our roads are horrible. We need to fix those first before we consider making a new city hall or moving the police station down there.
Thank you, Doug. John, can you share with us your thoughts on what opportunities you see?
I am a huge fan of this. Of course, we have to remember this was kind of on the planning books, a decade ago. So now we have a new chance with CTC funding to move this forward. I would read a little bit from the Transformational Change Committee vision, which is to leverage this area, including Lakeview Commons and Harrison Avenue, to further transform Midtown into a recreation, arts, and community hub. Of course, they have the new recreation and swim complex, an updated El Tahoe Bijou area plan with housing. City Hall has been mentioned, maybe not, and perhaps an arts district and a Bijou Park master plan, all kind of wrapped into there. I would say another element that I would really favor is finding a way to minimize the impact of traffic, just like the Highway 50 revitalization project at State Line. And if this is kind of the local downtown, midtown area, how can we at least slow traffic down there? Some have talked about looping traffic around somewhere, but at the very least, let's minimize the impact of fast moving traffic, which is dangerous with families and kids going down to the beach and using Lakeview Commons area. So anyway, I think we have a lot of potential here, and I think this is something that the community could really unite behind and get behind as our kind of South Lake Tahoe kind of town center. So big fan.
Thanks, John. Scott, I've been advised that Leonard is back on. So could we ask the question of Leonard while he's with us? You're muted, Scott.
Thank you. Hi, Leonard. The question is, what opportunities do you see for the city in developing the 56-acre tract master plan?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, just go for it, Leonard.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I like the idea of the center, and I think it could be a real hub. I think it would be very attractive. I just basically would say, we do have priorities, and what are those priorities in building this thing? And it is a big money ticket issue. But I've seen it work, and it is a beautiful thing when it works to make it a city hub, and it will have a lot of spin-off economic effects, which will be good. Having this one area with a lot of the amenities that people really look for, as well as being a hub of creativity. So I'm basically for it. I agree that timing is a little difficult due to COVID and the money situation of the budget at the present time.
Thank you, Leonard.
That's
Bruce, thank you. Thank you, Leonard. Bruce, what opportunities do you see for the city in developing it?
I'm done.
Yeah. Thank you, Leonard.
Thank you, Leonard. Bruce?
There's a lot of possibilities. Many of the candidates have touched upon it, but if I get elected, I'm going to make sure that the Senior Citizen Center is well developed and meets the needs of seniors. What I understand right now, they want to relocate the seniors to a facility with no kitchen. I've been at the senior center. I've talked to seniors. This year, the senior center is not being used much because of COVID. But if I get elected, I'm going to make sure that their facility meets their needs. Right now, I don't think it does. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Mario, can you please take the next question for us?
Be my pleasure, Scott. All righty, candidates, the next question. And we'll start off with Mr. John Friedrich. What differentiates your candidacy from others running this year for city council?
Well, first of all, I just want to, say thank you to everyone who's running. And, we're all stepping up and putting ourselves out there. I think there's a lot of good ideas I've heard tonight. And I think what differentiates me are a couple things. One is I think I have a vision that aligns with a lot of different folks in town, whether it's the Vision 2025 or the Transformational Change Committee. or folks that have been skeptical of those initiatives. And I think I have a way to find common ground and bring people together to move forward on projects that, that we can get behind. And I'm really focused on the idea of public participation, that we need to expand the committee structures at the city and give people a way to be part of the solution, to come together, to not say, we've been for or against this one thing, but how can we find things that we can move forward on together? So I would say my just ability to to talk to diverse groups, find common ground, figure out an agenda we can move forward on that is pro locals, sustainable tourism, affordable housing and whatnot, and and move forward and get things done based on my experience. I have 30 years of leadership experience in both the private and nonprofit sector, and I've worked in a lot of policy and program contexts, and I think I can bring that experience combined with my focus on issues and support with different groups in the community to move us forward and make some positive traction to do the kind of things that I think have broad support in our community.
All right, John, we appreciate your thoughts. And next we'll go to Mr. Scott Robbins.
Yeah, I'm for the locals first. I am not representing the interests of the casinos, the resorts, or the developers. I'm interested in representing the baristas, bartenders, the workers, the nurses and the retirees, the people who actually live here. I've taken clear, unambiguous positions on the Loop Road, over tourism, and the need to fund our fire department as the first priority for general funds revenue. It's simply much too easy to speak in pleasant nothings and to say things that don't get anyone animated, but that don't actually stake out a position on any of the critical issues in our community. I've been clear on what my loyalties are, and I've been clear on my intentions for public service. And I think that's the distinction between me and everyone else.
All right, thank you, Scott. And Christy, we'll go on to you next.
Thanks. I would say, sort of along the lines of what John said, that I have a demonstrated ability to collaborate with a lot of like-minded and not so like-minded people. I am open-minded and not wholly entrenched in an agenda. I have my values that I will bring everything up against and see how they fit. And I think that my values represent a lot of people in the community. As a small business owner, I've definitely been impacted by a lot of these things that we've been talking about tonight. So I am a small business owner and also, someone who has worked to create jobs in this community. And I'd like to have the opportunity to do that more. So I think that those things, and the ability to find a lot of common ground with people, and I'm also really accessible and can listen to a lot of different people.
Appreciate that, Christy. And next we'll go to Mr. Bruce Greco.
Again, would you repeat the question?
It'll be my pleasure. What differentiates your candidacy from others running this year for City Council?
My experience and my history of working for our community for decades. I think I have the insight to try to get things done. I hear ideas all the time during election time. We want to do this, we want to do that, we want to do the other thing. But when it comes down to it, you get to the city council and you get lost. You have the agenda created by staff. You have to find two others to pass anything. Norm Wood said, it's easy to govern. All you have to do is count to three. But I've been there. I have the experience, and I think I have an insight now on how to bring forward programs that people want. There's things I like to do. First of all, I like to see the agendas noticed 2 weeks before the council meeting, instead of having major issues happen released on Thursday night for a Tuesday morning council meeting.
Got 10
I
seconds.
think on some issues we need more time to speak. But those are the things that I want to work on. I think I have a unique perspective because of the years of experience in dealing with our local government.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. And next we'll go to Miss Stacy Ballard.
You're muted, Stacy. There you go.
Got it. Thank you. I am our low income community. I've been low income the whole time I've lived in Tahoe for close to over 17 years, 16 years. I know what it's like to be low income in this town. I've also worked in service in this town. I worked for 3 years on the community plan team for the redevelopment of the Y that was supposed to be the locals' end of town. We developed a plan that was mixed use. It was wonderful. We all worked together amazingly well, and the city council trashed it. So I am our local low-income community. I am a white woman, so I'm not going to pull any punches there. I want to bring more equality to our city. I know there isn't a lot of equality for the people of color in our town. I am open to listening. I'm really great with working with a lot of different types of people and different income levels, different political views. And I think there's a way that everyone can work together. Nobody's experience is wrong. We all make our opinions from our own experiences. I've got a lot of experience. And it may not be working in government, but I think that could be a positive trait for me as well right now. So thank you.
All right, and thank you, Stacy. And next we'll go to Mr. Doug Williams.
I'm the only one that has come up with a plan for housing, and I also have a plan for saving, for keeping us safe in a fire, and also making sure that when we do have a fire, that it's not as big as it should be, so that we don't turn out to become another paradise if a fire happens. We need the fire safe council. We need the fire wise communities. We need to have more housing that our people can live in that meets their income value. What we don't need is we don't need to bring people in, from another industry that our current people are not trained to do. Those people are going to drive up the prices for housing and make our current citizens have to move off the mountain. I am for our current citizens. I want them to have good housing. I'm also for making sure that everybody is fed. That's why I'm on Christmas cheer. I love our community, and I think most of the people do love our community that are running for council. But I have a schedule that I can be open to anybody because I'm self-employed. I make my own schedule, and I'm available at any time. Thank you.
We appreciate that, Doug. And next we'll go to Mr. Keith Roberts.
Well, my biggest asset is that I don't have an agenda. I'm new to all this. I'm not coming in as a president of a group. I haven't been pushing a specific issue for the last 6 months or years. I'm going to come in with a fresh set of eyes. Also, I'm going to parlay that being one of the last speakers here, that team building is what I've done in my career forever. It involves motivating people to do what they don't want to do, what they're not interested in doing. It's called taking different resources, taking all of these different candidates together and getting them to work together. I've heard tonight just multiple times where things happen too slow or they're not moving fast enough. And that's where a good team building will come into play and make more things happen. And I think that's what I can offer this city council.
All right, Keith, we appreciate your thoughts. And Mr. Leonard Carter, if you're still available and with us, feel free to share your thoughts.
Let's see if I can get you. You hear me?
Go ahead, Leonard.
I'm here and okay, great. I'm pragmatic. I'm not PC. I basically am very good at reasonably working through red hot emotional issues. I'm willing to ask the questions that a lot of people are fearful to ask. I'm very scientific in outcomes. If the outcomes are not what was meant to be, I don't fudge, I don't move the goals. And I'm also very much one that wants to hear what everybody has to say. As I've already stated, I'm retired. I'll give a great deal of time to being open to the public for communication. But I'm also very good at understanding the philosophical values that ultimately come from world views and how they can ultimately sideline real progress. So that I'm really into planning, and it's a team effort. I do agree, and we can go forward, but I find that so often we disseminate into so many different categories that we don't get sometimes the main things done. We get sidetracked into the minutia or those things which are not as viable, and instead of staying on task. So in that sense, that's probably where I think my greatest asset is.
Thank you.
Basically bring up the questions and challenge in those areas that people may not be aware of, or that they can understand where we're really headed, or when we're really headed in a good and in a positive direction for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
All right, thank you,
candidates,
Leonard.
yeah, thank you. And candidates, on behalf of Mario and myself, we want to thank you very much for answering our questions, and wish you the best in running for city council. And I'm now going to turn it over to Steve.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Mario. Appreciate it. So we're past the 7 o'clock hour, but there's another question. And then I do want to remind you that you have your 90-second closing statement. I've been monitoring the Q&A box. There's a number of questions in there. We're not going to be able to get to all of them, but hopefully when you give your email address or your website, there are people out there that can follow up with you and ask their questions to you directly. But extrapolating some of the things that have been in the Q&A box and kind of putting them together, the Office of City Council, as I think probably most, if not all of you are aware, is not just being on the City Council. Each year, the City Council divvies up the seats on other boards, everything from the abandoned auto JPA to TRPA Governing Board, Conservancy, TTD. There's lots of different involvements. So, the question is, and we'll ask everybody to kind of give your thoughts on, are you really able to cover all the bases that a city council person is required to cover? And do you have any particular favorite right now that you would say, boy, if I was on the city council, I want to be on that board? So sometimes as a rookie coming in, you're not necessarily going to get your first choice, which is why I kept having gymnastics when I was at college PE. But anyway, that's the issue. John, I'll go to you first.
Yes, there are a lot of opportunities to be involved in all kinds of levels. I'm interested at the TRPA level. I've having been here over the years, including at the League to Save Lake Tahoe, I have a lot of experience speaking in front of the board, and I'm interested on the issues that are confronted basin wide. As a dad with a daughter in 9th grade, like I mentioned up top, liaison to the school district is certainly another interest. I'm a big fan of all the good work that's done at the CTC. I know you'd have to pick and choose. So, but I do have I do have broad interest, and I'm definitely committed to the time it would take to take on some of these more involved assignments, and I think that's it's an opportunity for the person on city council to have a larger voice for the city of South Lake Tahoe in our region, including the 2x2s with El Dorado County, to figure out things like how we respond to COVID, like we said up front, and how TRPA decisions like on accessory dwelling units affect housing options in our community. So there's a lot of interconnections, and I look forward to serving in some of those capacities.
Thank you, John. Scott.
Yeah, I can't say that I have a particular favorite advisory board that I'm gunning for. But the simple reality is that the most important decisions are not made in advisory boards and advisory commissions. I've had a long enough career in DoD and government acquisition to know that that's not where decisions are really made. The most important decisions are made by a vote of 3 at city council meetings. There are decisions such as this past week's decision to expand the tourist core into the Bijou neighborhood, a decision made over the widespread objection of the public. Decisions that are coming up, such as permitting the allocation of auxiliary dwelling units. These are microhomes, lock-off suites and the like for use as Airbnbs. These are the decisions that really affect the community, and they're made by the council themselves. And that's where the real important decision-making happens in our community. Advisory boards are good and important things. I'm particularly interested in the Bicycle Advisory Commission because I'm an avid road cyclist. So I'm intimately familiar with the quality and state of our roads, and mean intimately. But in reality, it's the decisions are made at the council by a majority of votes there. And that's where real change and real representation has to happen.
Thank you.
It's as simple as that.
Stacy.
Yes, as an entrepreneur, you kind of have to do a bunch of different jobs. And so I will go wherever I'm needed. Doug has talked a lot about him having the only plan for housing. It's not true. In these little 1-minute clips, it's hard to tell everything. I have whole spreadsheets of ideas and plans for low-income housing and for environmental things and all the other subjects I'm interested in. So anyone who's interested in looking at those Excel sheets, I'm more than welcome to get a hold of me and I'll share my plan. I will go wherever I'm needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Keith.
Well, I want to expand on my help with the local college and with the high schools and whatnot. Is I think we need to invest in our youth. What I've seen them doing over at the college is amazing. How fast they're getting things done and particularly right now I'm with the culinary program, but I'd like to expand that some roles over there. They're what can help our city grow as we build, locals that are strong and knowledgeable. I'd also like to hopefully get the opportunity to work more with the other jurisdictions, the county and whatnot. Is it feels like they cause some of our sluggishness as a city government.
Thank you, Keith. Doug.
Well, I think I'd like to be on the conservancy because that is one that can help us get our more housing done. They've got a great program that's going on across from the high school by the mobile home park. It's going to be a wonderful project, but we still need more housing, and I think the conservancy is going to be the one that's going to help us the most. I also want to be on the 2x2 with the county because I know most of those supervisors down there already. I think I can work with them. I think I can get them to help us with our mental health issues up here and the issues that we may have with the sheriff. We also need to be able to work well with our federal representatives so we can get more help on the beaches and our trails and get more funding for things that we need. We need to have more grant funding for different issues like housing and the beaches.
Great. Thank you, Doug. Bruce. Oh, there you go.
There's a lot of facets to your question. In the last 4 years, I've been very concerned about council members missing council meetings. What a special thing it is for the voters to grant you this privilege to represent them and to participate. But I see council members not showing up, not participating in subcommittees. When I was on the council before, I think I missed 1 meeting only. And I always went to subcommittee meetings wherever I was sent, STATA in those days. If I had a choice where I would want to go as a committee or an assignment, I'd like to be on the TRPA. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Christy.
The first answer to your question is I've thought about running for city council for several years, and the timing was never right for me personally or professionally. So I've really waited until I know that I can fully make this commitment. I think that I would be most interested in being on the 2x2 because I think that we really need to increase collaboration between the city and the county so that we can have a really coordinated response to a lot of the things that come up. And I think that we can both be better, make better efforts if we have more coordination. And I'd like to be a part of that. Thanks.
Thank you. Leonard, are you with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Did you hear the
Yeah,
question?
I'm willing to pretty much go anywhere that they feel the leader that's needed. I plan to spend a whole lot of time because I'm retired and being available to be on various committees. My actual passion, if I was going to say, where do I kind of naturally see myself? It's more in the area of recreation, U.S. Forest Service, the whole issue of trails and recreation, dealing with our natural resources. That type of area would be probably where I would be find myself being attracted to out of everything else. I also know that it seems like when I work for companies, I end up being in the whole planning area, but this isn't necessarily a liaison. It's more like where would I ultimately probably spend a lot of my time is, budget as well as planning, those couple of areas. That's basically what I would gravitate to.
Okay, I appreciate that, Leonard. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move to the 90-second closing statement that each of you candidates will have. And I'm just going to ask who would like to go first? No takers? Stacy?
Go. I like getting it over with, so I'll go first. First of all, my website is Stacy Ballard, SLT.com. My Facebook is Stacy Ballard SLT City Council 2020 on Facebook. My priorities are quality for our local community with an emphasis on our low-income residents and housing. Second, police oversight and our STACS program. Better resources for mental health and addiction services. Supporting local business through services, supporting our local small businesses through things like adopted business diversity ordinances, adaptive reuse programs, and giving preference to local businesses and purchasing. So thank you guys all for being here, and thank you guys for offering the space for everyone to learn about us. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy, very much. Any volunteers for second?
I'll go second.
Okay. Who's
I'm
that?
happy to go second.
Okay.
So hopefully this will work. How's that? So it's got my website.
It says ChristyForCouncil.com. Is that
So,
right?
yes, that one's a little funny. So it's ChristyForCouncil.com there. ChristyForCouncil@gmail.com. And then my Instagram also is at ChristyForCouncil. I want to thank everybody, all the candidates. I really, there's a lot of passion here and a lot of real love for our community. I think that something that I heard, though, is a lot of the over-tourism, and we don't like tourists and all that stuff. And I agree that we need better tourist management strategies. But at one time, wasn't each of us a tourist here, somebody who came to visit and fell in love with it? And I think that why would we deny that same opportunity when we're talking about economic diversification and all these other measures that we want to do? Doesn't that necessarily imply that we need to have some new people here as well who love it as much as we do? So I think that there are better ways that we can do it than we've done. But that's, I guess, the note that I want to leave on. So thanks very much for inviting us and asking us such great questions.
Thank you, Christy. Anybody want to go next? No takers?
Sure, I will.
Okay, Leonard.
If it's open.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that the largest crucial issue is ultimately trying to plan for the future in relationship to the whole issue of what's called over tourism in relationship to the people that live here. And I think that I would basically be very interested and very hands-on with the ultimate goals of what it's going to be like 20, 30, 40 years. I think that there needs to be vision to ultimately say, how can we really do this in a good and a viable fashion that helps primarily the person who lives here as well as the tourist secondarily. So I feel that that is really the major issue, that so many of the other issues need attention. In fact, if my experience is reading through the agenda is 3/4 of the stuff in the agenda are just pretty much pragmatic. You know, who's going to get a raise and what do we do with this VHR over here, rather than, you know, things that deal with the broad community in a broad sense that ultimately is for the general profitability, success of the people that live here, and a good time, so to speak, for the tourists. So that's what I'd like to say. And also my blog is TahoeLeonard.com. And you can just put in Leonard Carter and you'll find Facebook and all kinds of other stuff. But that's the main one. It's got a lot. I've written quite a bit, and you can really find a lot of my views by going to that. That's TahoeLeonard.com.
Thank you, Leonard.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any takers for next? Okay, start picking here. John?
All right. Well, thanks, Steve and Mario and Scott for your questions tonight, to the Tahoe Chamber and the Tahoe Daily Tribune for organizing this community forum. And especially I know there's a whole bunch of people out there still that have hung out for 2.5 hours. Thank you for tuning in. And as I said up top, really this is about what we all can do together. There's 5 people on council, but it's how can we get all of you engaged to move forward. And thank you for your thoughtful questions. So, and again, I think to make the progress we need, it'll take all of us working together toward a common vision. And we need to also, as part of that, work hard to engage all parts of our community in setting priorities, very much including our Latino and Hispanic community. And I'm certainly passionate about building bridges among people with diverse backgrounds. It's another thing I would focus on in council and doing that proactive outreach. I see opportunity to find common ground on creating thriving walkable town centers and sustainable tourism, housing options that locals can afford, less traffic with more bike trails and a greatly expanded traffic network to help visitors and residents get around with less dependence on cars. I see opportunity to find common ground on repairing our roads, on investing in critical infrastructure like broadband and diversifying our economy, transitioning to 100% renewable energy future in a way that provides good new jobs, and of course, strong support for public safety. And if I'm elected to city council, I will listen to the community, remain open-minded to different points of view, and make thoughtful decisions informed by as much public participation as possible. And I strongly support and would like to build upon the committee structure that brings local residents together to explore and propose solutions, very much including on the budget. So if you want a new voice in the council who is positive and solution-oriented and committed to moving forward together, check out john4council.com. I'll do what Chrissy did, and I'd be honored. You can see that. I'd be honored to have your support. And thank you all again for participating tonight.
So it looks like Keith is kind of fading in and out there, but hopefully he'll come back in. Doug? There you go.
Yeah. My best place to get me is through Facebook, which is Doug Williams for South Lake Tahoe City Council. I would appreciate everybody giving me their vote. I will work diligently. I will make myself available at all times. I don't have any conflict with my job because I can pick and choose whatever hours I want to work. I want to bring back more community involvement. We used to have a coffee with the mayor and coffee with a cop. We need to bring these things back. We need to have more involvement and have a set time where people can come by and talk with either a city council member and a mayor, or a city councilman and the chief of police or the fire chief. We really need to figure out ways to make us safe. And I'm available to anybody. So I don't, doesn't matter what socioeconomic you fall in, I'll talk to everybody. I'm open to all ideas. I want to make sure that we have housing for our locals. Our locals is why I want to become a city council member. It's, you know, it's a thankless job. Many people are going to hate some of the decisions we make. Most hopefully will agree with the decisions that I would make. And I look forward to any support that people are willing to give. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Scott.
Yes, first of all, thank you for hosting this event. These are strange and exceptional circumstances for all of us. My priorities are fire, housing, roads, and over-tourism. Council members are not representatives of the resorts or the second homeowners or the tourists or tax revenue. They are representatives for the locals, the people who actually live here. We can make housing a bit more stable and a bit more affordable. We can fix the roads and make buses free. We can and must have a fully funded fire department. We can take the edge off and make tourism work for locals. We can make living here just a little bit easier. It's not that complicated if we have people in office who set real priorities and put locals first. I am not endorsed by the Democratic Party. I am not endorsed by the Republican Party. I am not endorsed by the chambers of commerce, the developers, the casinos, or the resorts. I will be an independent voice for the locals, the people who live here, work here, play here, the restaurant workers and retirees, the bartenders and baristas. Locals are the people who make Tahoe a great place to live, not just a place to visit. I ask everyone to join me at scottforslt.com. Thank you everyone for your time, your attention, and for giving us the opportunity to speak here today.
Thank you, Scott. Keith, are you back with us?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
When I started,
Cat jumped on your cords there.
no, I think it was my son playing video games in the next room.
Anyway, if you have your closing statement.
Yeah, when I started my career as a high-end chef, back in those days, chefs were known as tyrants. We were dictatorships. We were ruthless dictators, and I was successful as that back in those days, and that's how things ran. Things evolved, and today's climates are certainly different. And I had to learn a lot of lessons about how to manage people, how to motivate people, how to build teams. And I think in today's divisive climate, you know, nationally and even creeping in or already exists in our current city council, that's what I want to change. I want to see the Scott Robbins getting along with the Bruce Gregos and so on, so that both of their ideas can be implemented, and that our city can grow strong and happy together. And I think those are the skills that I have, and bringing out the best in everybody, so that our decisions to go forward work for everybody, and not just for the loudest yeller or the hardest to deal with.
Did you give your website? Do you have a website, Keith?
Oh, I'm on Facebook with Keith Roberts for South Lake Tahoe City Council.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think I gave everybody a chance here. Did I not? I didn't miss anybody? Oh, Bruce, I'm sorry. Very sorry. I had a feeling I missed somebody. So Bruce, please.
Thank you. My email address is bruce@grego2020.com. You know, there's too much polarization of positions in this country. Some of that's in our town. But I think I can provide fair and thoughtful governance. Steve DeShare and I, we write letters against each other or against our perspective. But we have different positions on many issues, and there's been letters that are opposite. But I can work with Steve DeShare. We were on the APC board together. we need to be able to join with others that we disagree with to try to solve problems that face us. And I think I can provide that skill based on my years of experience, my time in this community. And I ask you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Thanks very much. And thanks to all of you candidates. It takes a real commitment to put yourself out there like each of you are doing, and to take the slings and arrows that invariably come with being an elected official or even a candidate for office. So on behalf of the Chamber and the Tahoe Tribune, we appreciated this chance and your participation. We could not do this without you. And so we appreciate you the way you have appreciated us creating this forum in these very unique and challenging circumstances. So we would like to thank all the folks that joined us, both on the Zoom and on Facebook. Again, you'll be able to see this program again. If you missed all or part of it, you can tune in, share it with your friends so that more people can see this. So I think this has really been informative. We have a very diverse group of candidates here, and really appreciate that. So thank you all very much. Good luck to you all, and everybody have a really great and safe evening. Thanks very much.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.